Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
Well, you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
It's like a Sharknado, except with poop.
Proud the nation. Waldorf Nation. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Friday. TGIF. Welcome to the So, we got a good show for y'all today. We've got some fun stories. We got stories about corruption, of course. We got ridiculous conservatives and very angry MAGA chuds. Fun times, as usual. So, please stay with me for the next hour as we go through some of these stories. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think you'll enjoy this little send-off for the weekend. Hey, Kathleen, thank you for subbing at Tier 1 for 3 months to your sub-anniversary. Well, thank you so much. And, of course, you can sub to us on Twitch by hitting the subscribe button as well. And better so if you have Amazon Prime, which means instead of going to Bezos, it goes to me. Which is always fun. So Bezos bucks, really good. Maxed Out says, "I'm ready for a Waldorf salad. Ain't nobody touching my salad." I'm just gonna put that out there, okay? Don't touch my salad. My salad, not yours. All right. Anyway, fun. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun show. We got Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, and talking about safetyness. You're gonna enjoy that. Pillow Guy, of course, as always. That's interesting. Very interesting. I think my favorite story of the day, though, we're going to get to, is the Cyber Ninja story. Turns out Trump fans not happy with Cyber Ninjas. Fun. Lots and lots of fun. Stuff that did not make it into the show, unfortunately, because it came too late. Is Charlie Kirk's sexual anarchy. But what I want to do is I actually want to just kind of talk about that live for a second, because first of all, it's super funny. All right. I have not listened to this clip. This is Charlie Kirk, who's going to talk about sexual anarchy. Oh, no. But I mean, oh, yeah. So let's go to that here. All right, here we go.
Profound thinking. And I think these comments from Chuck Schumer are important because I want every Republican out there to realize that when the Democrats are winning, they are rubbing it in our face. And some Democrat senators, some Republican senators are now coming up and they are stunned. How dare he do this? think we're still living in the same country, don't you? Senators from South Dakota, Senator Portman, you think we're still living in the 1980s where the Democrats actually want what's best for America? The Democrats want to destroy the country. We know this. Not new stuff, not profound thinking. They want to see America completely obliterated, the Constitution shredded, and remade in their own San Francisco, Brooklyn, Malibu, Manhattan image, where there is no cultural identity, where you live in sexual anarchy, where private property is a thing of the past, and the ruling class controls everything. We know this. Schumer is willing to get there. Schumer is willing to get it done. Republicans are not. Republicans are trying to protect a country that no longer exists.
Wow. Okay. So, projection. A little bit of projection there. It's the Democrats that want to destroy the country. Oh, yes, we want to destroy the country. No, actually, we're not the ones who, for example, tried to overthrow the election and invade the Capitol on January 6th. That's not something that we did. But let's just get to the fun stuff, right? Sexual anarchy. Please, don't threaten us with a good time. I mean, what does that even mean? Does he even understand anarchy? Does he even understand? No, obviously not. He does not understand what sexual anarchy is, nor any other kind of anarchy, because, well, I mean, obviously, the whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. And by the way, you know what Democrats are asking for? And not even just Democrats, right? This is not even a political thing, right? Regular people. You know what we want? Consent. That's what it is. And so I think this is related, and I'm not entirely sure. I think this is related to California banning the practice of stealthing. So those of you who might not be familiar with stealthing, right? So that's basically when you're having sex, and you decide, as a man, to remove the condom without consent, without letting your partner know that you have done so. So now that, of course, introduces risk factors. For one, introduces a risk factor of giving somebody a sexually transmitted infection. That's hugely problematic. And secondly, it also introduces the possibility of an unplanned pregnancy, which, of course, in Republican world, if that happens to you as a woman, Republicans say, well, too bad, you can't get an abortion. So it's super fucked up that you have people like Charlie Kirk coming out there and saying, oh, God, sexual anarchy. I can't believe that they would want to do that. No, it's called consent, dipshit. Which, of course, the problem with Charlie Kirk and consent is that ain't no woman want to give him consent. And that's the issue. So, yeah, that's the first thing I think of when I see a group of Democratic senators, sexual anarchy. It's the last thing I want to think about when it comes to Democratic senators, honestly. It's ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous stuff. And by the way, Charlie Kirk, you ever heard of a shower? I hear they're nice. They make you nice and clean and make it so that your hair doesn't look like you rolled out of bed. People pay this guy. Well, not quite people, but giant corporations pay this guy to roll out of bed and start talking about sexual anarchy. Ridiculous. This guy's a clown. Absolute clown. All right. Anyway, that's... Good Lord. All right. Showers are overrated. Charlie looks depressed. Well, if I were Charlie Kirk, I'd be depressed too. Just saying. Corporations are people, Jeff. Touche. Touche. No, he isn't a clown, just part of the fascist machine. You don't think clowns can also be fascist? Or there can be fascist clowns? I think you could be more than one thing at once. Just saying. Absolute clownish behavior, though. All right, so let's get to the stories here that we have. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't already, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. I know I have a tendency to sometimes just dive right into a story, and I do that a lot. What can I say? I'm not much one for small talk. Nonetheless, let's dive in. Oh boy. Mike Pillow claims that he has new evidence of electoral shenanigans, which means it's time for another episode of Pillow Talk.
God gave me this platform. I already know I'm going to win.
China did our vote. Biden and Harris would say, hey, we're here to protect the country, and resign.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't.
Just forget about the evidence. This was attacked.
That never gets old. So now, how many impossibly old people voted in 2020? That's the question on Mike Lindell's mind, along with other questions such as, who am I? Why am I here? And hey, whose crack pipe is that over there? It's yours, Mike. Pretty sure. Because you would have to be on drugs to believe this next newest claim from the Pillow Man. Take a look.
Well, I'm going to give an example today, and I'm not going to say what state. We pulled, we put from the voter rolls to one of our team. We have a team that goes through all of it now with this other system that pulls up all anomalies. What I mean by that is 5 people voting from the same address, or 5 of the same names. I'll give an example today. 2,650 people over the age of 100. Now you might say, well, that could be. 2,000 of them were over 200. Wouldn't you like to live in that state? Right, they were 200 and some years old. So obviously one guy was 850.
They were 200 years old. These people that are voting are 200 years old. Of course, they're obviously not living.
They're obviously deceased, but one guy was 850 years old. Okay, and these are facts. You can get them. You can get them from your own state's thing.
You can get it from the thing. You know, the 650 people that are over 100 years old. You realize that there are thousands of eligible voters that are actually around or over 100 years old. Kind of surprising, but turns out that life expectancy, especially if you're wealthy in America, fairly good. Fairly good. Again, the stipulation is, of course, if you're wealthy. That really, really tends to make the difference, you know, if you have healthcare. All right, so now I love how he starts out saying, I'm not going to tell you the state. No, privileged information. Also, super convenient for him because people can't go back and fact check his findings. But you can find them in the thing. So you can find them in your state's thing. So obviously you can go and check that. So now he says, we got ancient dead people over 200 years old that are voting. What is the actually? You can explain that. Tide goes in, tide goes out. Old people vote. You can't explain that. Actually, you can. It's real easy. All right. So now it turns out that you can get an explanation here from Jason Roberts, who's a professor of political science at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. So he talked to the Associated Press about this, and this was earlier. This was after, I think it was last year, about January 2020, when some more memes, you know, that have come up about, we got dead people voting. There's so many dead people voting. And this claim was going all over social media as it had been. Apparently, Mike Pillow's a little late to this train. But they went and talked to this guy, the Associated Press did, and he had an explanation. This explanation is that some states have a default year of birth that they entered for registrations that either lacked a year of birth on the old paper forms when voter registration was moved from paper to computer. So, for example, there are people still alive that were born in the 1950s, 1960s, before all the stuff got digitized. All right. And so now you got to move all those paper records over to the computers, because now, we have all those computer databases of voters. And so sometimes when you move those things over, you have missing data, or you have errors that are inputs, or I should say inputting errors. And so that can mess up the dates, and it defaults to 1/1/1800. And that's what happens. And so now he explains that those never get updated, and as time goes on, the voters with this issue look older, whether they are or not. As I said, in Pennsylvania, some active voters are listed with that birth date of 1/1/1800, which does not make them over 200 years old. Nope. The data, that date, is also used for confidentiality reasons of registered voters. For example, if you're a victim of domestic violence, some people will just say, okay, the state will just say, okay, these people that are victims of domestic violence, to try to make sure that they don't have their data open to people that, for example, might come after them, we'll just put their birth date down as 1/1/1800. Okay. Now, in Michigan, there are also rare occasions where a ballot received from a voter may be recorded as though that person is too old to be alive. This can occur, again, when an incorrect birth year is entered on the voter rolls, so of course you have those input errors. Not only that, but some of the other things that, the anomalies that he talked about is, well, you got people with, you got people that are dead people that are voting. What about people who share the same names and birth dates as dead people? That does happen. There are 7 billion people on this planet. There are 330 million people in this country. The odds are pretty good that you might have some repeat names, first and last. For example, some of the most popular names in the country are John Smith, James Johnson, William Smith, Robert Johnson, James Smith, etc., etc., etc. And yes, these are super common names. And not only that, but some of these birthdays, one John Smith might share another, a birthday with another John Smith from like California or something. And they'll be maybe 20, 30 years apart. But oh my God, here we go. We got 2 John Smiths with the same birthday in different states. Must be fraud. Must be fraud. Or not. Again, this whole thing is not evidence of fraud. This whole claim already went to court in Pennsylvania, and it bombed. It bombed. And in fact, in court, this is according to the Office of the Attorney General, Pennsylvania, the court found no deficiency in how Pennsylvania maintains its voter rolls, and there's currently no proof provided that any deceased person has voted in the 2020 election. That's it. Oops. So now finally, the most ridiculous claim here is that you had like Methuselah or something voting. The guy who's 850 years old. Now, I shouldn't have to explain why this is impossible. And yet, it's impossible because, you see, that person would have to have been born in 1170 AD. I'm pretty sure the United States did not exist back in 1170 AD. Okay? I mean, based on the fact that 1776 is later than 1170 AD. But hey, you know what? Keep huffing the copium, Mr. Pillow. I hear it's good shit. So one last thing. Let's go back to the other claim here, right? So one of the other anomalies that he had mentioned in that little rant is the fact that, we got 5 registered voters at one address. Has he ever heard of roommates? I mean, like, that's not unusual. All right. There are millions of young people who right now, as a result of the housing market, can't afford their own places in cities like Portland, LA, New York, Washington, D.C. They have to share houses with several adult roommates because wages are so low and housing costs are so high. I mean, these are the things, these are the so-called anomalies that, you know, if you actually possessed a modicum of critical thinking skills and a little bit of knowledge, all right, easily would explain these anomalies that he had found. And it's like, oh, look at that. Oh, turns out you got 5 roommates. Or I should say, you got 4 other roommates, and we're all registered voters, and we all voted. And we all voted for Biden because, you know, we're not idiots. And that's it. I mean, the system, and by the way, the system does work. Why? Because it was challenged. One example is an incident in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania, where a registered Republican had actually reportedly attempted to apply for an absentee ballot in his dead mother's name. Again, as I mentioned, Republican, registered Republican, wanted to vote for Trump, wanted to use his dead mom to also vote for Trump. Why does it always end up being like Trump voters that are doing the actual voter fraud? And of course they do it, and they get caught every single time. This man did not make it past the application phase because it was flagged and he was caught. Another example was a woman over 100, by the way, who was named as a dead voter. However, the Associated Press reached out and found out that this woman was very much alive and actually kicking her husband's ass at cribbage. Oops. Sad. This entire thing is just nothing more than extreme copium for people who are in a cult that refuse to accept factual reality. Now, one last, super last thing. I got more, okay? So, and I know. These allegations of voter fraud, mass voter fraud, do not come without cost. So now, right now, everybody's been spreading the big lie. Is being sued right now by Dominion and Smartmatic. Rudy Giuliani, you get Sidney Powell, and of course you've got Mike Lindell. Now, it's not just that cost, but you also have a state that is literally sending Mike Lindell a bill for his little audit. Take a look.
You were chasing your tail because of the MyPillow guy here. You know, should he pay for this at least?
Well, we actually will be totaling up the expenses that were incurred in the process, and we will be sending him a bill.
Be curious to see if he pays.
Yes, I would be also very curious to see if he pays for that bill. Very likely not. I wouldn't count on it. Sad. Baby. Oh, the whole thing was ridiculous. Just more ridiculousness. All right. Yeah, don't forget about that like button, folks. More fun stuff. Probably my favorite story of the day. Let's go to cyber ninjas. You're gonna love it. Today in My, how the turntables. The CEO of Cyber Ninjas is running away from unhinged MAGA chuds. I know. So now on Friday, Slate reported that Doug Logan, the CEO of Florida-based Cyber Ninjas, security firm that conducted the controversial quote-unquote audit of ballots in Maricopa County, Arizona, is now swearing off conducting any more such so-called audits around the country. And it's not because of the left. In fact, he's going to explain on the Joel Oatman show why he is no longer doing this. Take a look.
So you're getting it from the left, you're getting it from conservatives. I am. So, yeah. Well, would you do it again? If another state called you and said, hey, we want to audit, would you do it again knowing all of the slings and arrows you had to go through the first time?
If in prayer the Lord told me to do it, I would do it again. Otherwise, no, I would not be inclined to. And quite frankly, it's not because of the left, it's because of the right. It's because the attacks of the many messages I've gotten, like the one that Joe sent me, and other stuff like that, who think that I did not do enough, that I did not put enough on the line.
Mine was about the draft. Mine was about it being a fake draft. I was upset about that because I questioned my integrity, right? And frankly, you didn't even know that I'm the one that released it. And by the way, Doug, I did it for you. I did it because people came to me and said, Doug is under constant attack. They're doxed his family. Look, I would have flown to wherever with an AR-15, stood in front of your house, and popped the first person that walked through that came to your front door. I would have done that for you, right? So when I put out that draft, I put out that draft to protect you because I believe what they do to one of us, they do to all of us, and I would gladly lay down my life for another American every day of the week, twice on Sunday.
Press X to doubt on that one, especially considering the comments I'm about to read from some of the viewers of Joel Altman's show. So now, as you just saw, we were wondering where that leaked draft of that Arizona so-called audit had come from. Turns out Altman is responsible for publishing the draft. So now that initial draft had some lines, and it's almost identical to the one that was officially released, but it had a couple of lines changed. Which basically claimed in the end that the conclusions were, well, this election should not be certified, it should be decertified because the results are unreliable. Now, later on, the Cyber Ninjas report, Logan's report, actually didn't even say that at all. It said that, well, actually, we found that for the most part, the official counts were correct. And actually, we found a few more, a few more votes for Joe Biden. And so, interesting. Now, that, of course, report had led the hogs to go absolutely apeshit. In fact, here's some responses. You've got some of the stuff here. 2.5 hours of my time totally wasted. And that's, of course, how long he was on the Altman show. Doug Logan is a sellout, very weak, disappointed in him big time. Massive disappointment. Doug Logan is weak, total waste of time. Now we know nothing will ever come of the Arizona audit. Oh my God. There's more. If the man who did the audit himself can't say there was a massive fraud, then I think we have a problem. Oh yes. A godly man, but we need to be bolder and understand what is at stake. His standard for surety is higher than the courts. Oh, there's more. We've got more unhinged responses here. Effing POS sold us out. What a loser. Came out and said that the draft report was fake. I've been in the auditing business for 32 years. Coward. Sorry, me as children, it could end up under communism, and he better be willing to die. Oh, wow, that got dark. Many thanks for this podcast. Very disappointed. Believe Doug is missing the forest from the trees. His auditing career is over. Really won't be able to show his face in public again. And then, of course, there's the obligatory, we're in a pre-Civil War. Yikes. Big yikes. And so, again, my favorite comment, though, I already read it, but if the man who did the audit himself can't say there was massive fraud, then I think we have a problem. You're so close. So very close. Yes, there is a problem. There is a problem, just not the problem that you were thinking, okay? Like maybe the fact that this entire audit, this entire conspiracy theory about, voter fraud is bullshit, and that Joe Biden won the election fair and square. Because that's what happened. He won fair and square. Now, again, this supposed audit looked into every single conspiracy theory in the book in order to get their desired result. And guess what? They could not deliver. They couldn't deliver. They weren't DiGiorno at this point because there was no delivering. Or maybe they were DiGiorno. I don't know. Either way, when you looked at how big of a mess this was, Remember, they did not follow proper count procedures. Okay, they looked for bamboo fibers in ballots, bamboo ballots, used UV lights to find Chinese watermarks, and blocked mainstream reporters from covering the process that they used. All of that, and still you end up with nothing, nada, not a goddamn thing, not a tiny little crumb of evidence. That leaked draft, which was celebrated by the right wing, wasn't even correct. Logan told Vice that this false version claims to be an earlier version of the Cyber Ninja's executive summary, but because of the supposed threats from Arizona Senate, it was not used. This is absolutely false. And now we know exactly who leaked it, Joel Altman. So, and now Joel Altman apparently gave it to Amy Vandersteel. So who's Amy Vandersteel? Amy Vandersteel is a QAnon Pizzagator who has a big Telegram channel, and she shared it across that channel as well as her Your Voice America media outlet. And so that from there perpetuated all the way out to Jim Hoff's his outlet, and I can't remember the name. Gateway Pundit, that's what it is. And the only reason I can remember Gateway Pundit is because the guy who ran Gateway Pundit apparently shit on the floor during a college party or something. And I don't know if that's related to the gun girl, Caitlin Bennett, who also shit her pants during a college party. I mean, basically all the shit stories have, tell you everything you need to know about the Gateway Pundit, okay? And their so-called reporting. But this is a great example of how this fake bullshit spreads across the right, this fake news, right? It goes from one obscure part of the internet to another part and then spreads all around. And then you got millions of people that believe this nonsense without a shred of evidence to back it up. Now, sadly for Doug Logan, that whole fake report got him in worse trouble when he had to actually go and debunk it. But you know what? I don't feel bad for him at all. Not at all. Not at all. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, and he's winning the stupidest prize of all, having MAGA completely turn on him. Now, I think that was always going to be the result for these people who buy into insane conspiracy theories. And one more thing real quick. So I'm just going to gloat here for a second. I'm going to be insufferable. But I think I deserve to be insufferable, even though, of course, everyone in their right mind knows that this was going to happen and knows that this was nothing more than nonsense. But if you're a creator like myself, if you're a YouTuber, or, all the different platforms, you get people that pop up in your comments that are like, oh, Donald Trump won. Wait till you see the Arizona audit. Then you're going to be sorry. Yeah, you're going to know who's the real winner. Oh, what now? What now? What now, bitch? What now? What happened to your vaunted Arizona audit? What happened? What happened? Oh, I know. New conspiracy time, right? You better get on that. Deep state, cover up. Joe Biden somehow stole the election with China. And had the aliens come down with the lizard skins, the lizard people, to go and steal the election. Yeah, that's what happened. It's always another conspiracy. It's always going to be the next one. They are never going to take responsibility for being wrong. Never. Because they can't handle it. It's all more copium for losing an election. So I can't wait to hear what next conspiracy your gullible ass comes up with and latches onto. Because it's going to be funny, and I'm going to keep laughing at you because you're dumb. At this point, that's really all you can do. Ridiculous. Total ridiculousness. All right, moving on. I heard it through the conspiracy grapevine. True. So much conspiracy. Much wow. Much conspiracy. All right. Thought the Trump Green statement was supposed to be immune to the deep state shenanigans. I know, but apparently the deep state was a little bit deeper than they thought. It was 3 levels deep instead of 2 levels. That's what happens. Underestimating. Okay, so here's the fun part, right? So this is sort of like Schrodinger's government, okay? So on the one hand, government can't do anything right, and that's why conservatives believe that government should be privatized, put into corporate hands. That's the one side, right? You got government that is so incapable and dysfunctional that it just can't do anything right. And yet, on the other side, it's the government is so good at the deep state, so good at hiding things from people and manipulating events like elections, etc., that only a few people, the enlightened ones that actually know the truth, they're the only ones that found out about it because it's buried so deep. No, bro, it's the Italians that hacked the satellites that rigged the voting machines in favor of Biden. Yes, Italy-gate. Italy-gate. Oh. If anything, this proves the left is smarter than the right. We have foiled every single one of their plans. Okay. All right. We should get to the ivermectin story. Yep, more of that nonsense. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is not happy about the fact that the Biden administration is not doling out ivermectin for unvaccinated COVID-19 patients who are in the hospital. So now, while appearing on Real America's Voice, Greene trotted out the oft-repeated statement that ivermectin is good because it won a Nobel Prize. Take a look.
Ivermectin is a very good drug. Its safetiness has been proven for decades. It even won a Nobel Peace Prize. And it is absolutely irresponsible for the Biden administration, the CDC, Dr. Fauci, and any of these doctors to be advising people to not prescribe it.
Safetiness. Its safetiness has been proven, y'all. You know how the safetiness has been proven? Because it won a Nobel Peace Prize. Okay, so let me just get off with the obligatory. It's actually deeply irresponsible to prescribe drugs for things to, that those drugs don't actually treat. Okay, so let's just, let's put that out there. Okay, so now if you have worms, if you've got river blindness, which is actually horrifying because it's literal worms in your eyes that make you go blind, I mean, ivermectin does a great job of treating those parasitic infections. In fact, the scientists William C. Campbell and Satoshi Yamura actually won the 2015 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for their work in showing that ivermectin can be very effective in treating against infections caused by roundworm parasites. So now the issue with what she's saying is drugs do not win Nobel Peace Prizes. Drugs do not win Nobel Prizes at all. It is the people who discover or study these drugs that do. Okay? So I'm just making this distinction. All right? Now, again, as I just mentioned, they did win the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. So there are different things. Drugs cannot win peace prizes. People can win peace prizes. Drugs cannot win medicine prizes or physiology or medicine. It is the people behind that. So, I'm just letting you know here. So, all right. Obviously, couple of real big mistakes in everything that Marjorie Taylor Greene had said. But none of that even matters when you look at the context. So now, ivermectin being safe and effective in humans for deworming purposes does not mean that it works on viruses like the novel coronavirus, which is what we're dealing with, which causes COVID-19. It's almost like, think about it this way. Taking ivermectin for COVID-19 is like taking cold medicine for a broken toe. Okay? It's sort of like that. Now, of course, some of the problems with ivermectin, especially if you take too much or with other things, is that it could cause some other different health issues, especially if you take a dose that is, for example, reserved for an equine, which is another word for a horse, or some other kind of pack animal, for example, a sheep or a cow or something. Okay, so you really gotta be careful. There's been a few cases of overdoses as a result of this. All right. So that said, we know the real reason why the right continues to push ivermectin. America's frontline doctors. Okay. So now America's frontline doctors worked in tandem with a small group of healthcare companies, right? So the things that they did is that they first sowed distrust in the COVID-19 vaccine. They then used that distrust in order to dupe tens of thousands of people into seeking or Marjorie Taylor Greene is just literally that stupid. I mean, really, take your pick. Take your pick. Now, it would be funny if it ended there. However, unfortunately, it didn't. 99% of all recent COVID-19 deaths have been among unvaccinated people, unvaccinated Americans. So it's actually incredibly irresponsible to push these fake cures for cash, not to mention super unethical, when of course we have something that does work, and that's effective vaccines. But unfortunately, of course, this grift only works if you pump out this disinformation, like, for example, taking information from the VAERS system. So the VAERS system is, of course, the vaccine, adverse effect reporting system. And so people can anonymously call in or report these things. There's an online form that you can fill out saying, oh, I had a reaction, my vaccine or whatever. I took the vaccine and then, or my aunt's, my cousin's friend in Trinidad took this vaccine and got swollen balls. They can report that to the VAERS system. It's not really proof of any sort of link between vaccination and adverse effects. VAERS is used as a tool, though, to look at possible correlations. Now, you also have sensationalist headlines when someone has a very rare adverse reaction. And it does happen. To say that there's never an adverse reaction to a vaccine would be being dishonest, of course. In fact, there is news that the J&J vaccine has had some adverse reactions. For example, let me go to the CDC. The CDC notes that there is a plausible causal relationship between the J&J Janssen COVID-19 vaccine and a rare and serious adverse event, blood clots with low platelets, which is thrombosis with thrombocytopenia syndrome, or TTS. Now, in case you're worried about that, I